Mike Jones made the tackle, and the Rams have won the Super Bowl. It's hot out there, but let's blow them off the line of scrimmage. Headline, Los Angeles.
Live from the Ram Cave, I'm Joe Terosian, and this is RamView, the January 30th, 2026 edition, brought to you by Kistler Law Firm. Have you been injured in an auto accident? Do you need help? Have you got some questions? Call Kistler Law at 661-206-6990. That's Kistler Law at 661-206-6990. And click on that QR code. Check out KistlerLawFirm.com. That's one word, KistlerLawFirm.com. Kistler Law, they've been fighting for you since 92. And by Temple City Auto Repair. Having some auto issues, get yourself some John and Henry at TempleCityAutoRepair.com. And Sports Ball. Make the Super Bowl more fun, more social, and wager free. Join sportsball.com today. Be sure to check that out. And we're going to start pushing out this next week huge info. We want to do some squares together. We're going to be bringing in some gifts and stuff. We're excited about working with Sports Ball through the Super Bowl. And, of course, we want to remind you, a game day in the Ram Cave. Be sure to check that out on Amazon. You keep me going and you keep me afloat in my day job. All right, also a reminder, this is the season, getting ready for camps this summer. Came out of winter camp, Outsiders camp. You might notice the button that I'm wearing over my heart here every time I come on the air. That is for Outsiders, and that is sponsored also by Kistler Law. But I want to get this one in just ahead of time. We kind of opened with it. You might not have seen it to start with, but today is Mike Jones Day. And you might remember Mike Jones is the cat that made the play on Kevin Dyson to secure Super Bowl 34 for the Rams. Now, I think people are over it. You know, I got really sick and tired of dealing with people that didn't want to acknowledge St. Louis. And I have to acknowledge St. Louis. I tried. The first couple years the Rams were in St. Louis, I really tried to move off of them. My second teams were always the Redskins and the Chiefs, and I couldn't do it. I mean, I would root for them, pull for them, but when they lost, I was over it within a half hour. When the Rams lost, I just couldn't shake it. So finally, I just got back to embracing them. That Sunday night, I went into my Sunday night service. I swore my pastor preached long because he knew I wanted to get to the game. Rams were up 16-0. I was getting updates from what would later be the Mid-Valley guys. It was 16-16. I came in to our lounge just as Steve McNair broke off that amazing scramble to set up the last play of the game. And then we're sitting there watching. We're standing there actually watching that. And, of course, Al Michaels.
Jones made the tackle, and the Rams have won the Super Bowl.
I sounded my barbaric yop.
Mike Jones made the tackle, and the Rams have won the Super Bowl.
I was so happy that night. I know it was awful. And then Georgia got up there. The devil herself got up there and said we did the right thing by moving to St. Louis. She had to take all the joy out of life. And so, yeah, that was just really, it was brutal. It was such a wide range of emotions that night, but I was happy the Rams got a Super Bowl. And I think Mike Jones should have some kind of banner, statue, something, because it is such an iconic play where he tackled Kevin Dyson to basically end the game, right? Now, you think about that game, how interesting it would have been given today's analytics and such. They've got a quarterback pretty mobile in Steve McNair, right? The final score was 23-16. Dyson scores, it's 23-22. With a quarterback like McNair, would you go for two? And present day, I think you would. Eddie George, Steve McNair, yeah, you might do it. The only ace in the hole for the Rams was that Jeff Fisher was coaching the Titans. So it wasn't even probably on the table, given Jeff Fisher's history at that point. but it was all moot because Mike Jones made the tackle. That would be a fun thing. Where were you when Mike Jones made the tackle? In fact, I'm going to put that in there, guys. Where were you when Mike Jones made the tackle? There you go. I'd love to hear your stories. All right. Manny Vasquez, that's right, made the tackle. USA expat. I believe that all of the refs officiating the Rams' losses this year were all sick of the Dodgers winning back-to-backs. It's fair enough. I'm still in bitter mode. That's okay. If we want to be bitter, I'm all in on being bitter. Bitter is what I do, right? Bitter and mostly spite is what I do when it comes to sports. Yeah. You know, where was that face mask call on Matthew Stafford? I'd like to see a review of that Cooper Cup catch, right? Did he complete the process? Anyway, speaking of which, woke up today, just started doing some review. I knew what I was talking about. We're going to be talking about the Rams quarterback room today, and we're going to be talking about position rooms going forward, taking a look at next year's opponents slowly, more in depth after the Super Bowl. And so we'll be doing that, and of course, looking around the NFL. But woke up to this news. I checked this out. I saw it posted. Word is leaking out. I think Peter Schrager reported it, that the Rams players and staff are still crushed after losing to Seattle. And I thought it was the best news I've heard to start the offseason, right? If you're going to start the offseason as a Ram fan, this is the news I wanted to hear. I want to hear they're devastated. I want to hear they're crushed, because when you've got a high testosterone count and generally you're competitive, you're going to be miserable for a while, but then after that, you want to start knocking heads, right? You just want to start knocking heads. And so I'm glad. This is music to my ears. I hope they're miserable, right? If it didn't matter, you wouldn't be miserable, but it matters. And so you are. And then there's just things to think about going in. The Rams' health was pretty much perfect this year, right? Stafford didn't miss any games. Kyron Williams, these guys, no one missed any significant time. Puka Nacua didn't miss any real significant time. Devontae Adams, no significant time. There were no real season-ending injuries. You had Devontae Adams, Quentin Lake go out for periods of time, but everyone was there. Everyone was on track to come back. The worst one probably was Akilla Weatherspoon. And then, of course, Havenstein, but Havenstein wasn't playing well when he went out anyway. So the Rams had amazing health this year. Can you repeat that next year? That's the hard part, right? That's the hard part. Can that be repeated next year? And, you don't know. So I'm glad they're miserable. They blew a great opportunity. But the good news is between all the draft picks and the salary cap, the Rams have weapons going in, or cards to play. And then Tom Pelissero reported this morning also that the NFL cap could jump by 25 rocks. Now, depending on where you're at, if you're looking at over the cap numbers, it's $35 million the Rams are at. If you look at Spot Track, it's 45. I've looked at others saying 58. Depending where you're at, a 25 rock jump in the NFL salary cap creates even more opportunities for the Rams, and an opportunity to be a little risky as well, and taking a flyer on maybe one of these corners. A lot of these corners that are out there, you just don't trust their health, right? You just don't trust them, and so you draft them. You'd like someone proven. It's just a real hit and miss with some of these corners. Like I said, there's not exactly a Mike Haynes out there on the market. One of the speculations was from ESPN that Byron Young is in the market for a 4-year, $145 million deal with $72 million guaranteed. That's 18 rocks a year guaranteed. That's 4 into 45. What is that? That's that's like 25 million a year for more than 25 million a year for Byron Young. That's closer to 30 million. Is that doable? Would you want to give Byron Young that kind of money? Just stuff to think about when maybe it's time to move off of Byron Young, not because he's bad, but because you need to make some moves. Rams hire Raymond Bubba Vitrone, the former Cleveland Browns special teams coach, as their guy. self-made dude out of Villanova, free agent in the NFL, played about 8 or 9 years in the NFL. He's had good success and some bad times there in Cleveland, but it is Cleveland. So we have to do McSneed. We trust when it comes to those things. So let's see what else is out there. Go Hawks, Jimmy Maldonado. Jimmy, man, I'm rooting for New England. I'm still playing this season, and I'm playing it in the next season. What we want as Ram fans is we want Sam Darnold to throw 7 interceptions and the Seahawks to lose 42-3, so they're even more miserable than Ram fans are, and that hopefully there's a hangover. But thank you, Jimmy, for clicking on. I do appreciate that. Manny Vasquez, it's hard for a team to go back-to-back years with really good health. Think about this in relation to Stafford. The Rams have had, 3 years now of really good health out of Matthew Stafford after everything came up in 2022. There was the neck injury. He got the snot beat out of him because the offensive line was so ripped up. And the Rams have gotten 3 consecutive healthy seasons out of Matthew Stafford. That's good if you want to give him money and extend him, but it's also kind of makes you nervous because eventually this all spins around, right? All spins around. Let's see. I wish this was 1994 offseason and there was Deion Sanders out there. I'm not going to complain that the Rams do anything because they need to do something. I don't know if drafting a corner, I think the 13th overall needs to be a wide receiver, and we got a mock draft from $5 Steve that we're going to show. I don't know if a corner at 13 makes any sense. You got to go wide receiver. And then at 29, I don't know if it makes any sense when you may have some other needs to fulfill. I think things go easier on the corners if you're more solid up the middle, and I'd like to see the Rams buy a DT in the draft. But what do you do? Grab a couple of rookie corners. Now, in 1981, the 49ers drafted Ronnie Lott out of USC. They also drafted Eric Wright. No one remembers Eric Wright. And Carlton Williamson. Carlton Williamson was also a rookie. So they had 3 rookies starting the 81 season. Their veteran was Dwight Hicks, who I think spent time in Canada. And Dwight Hicks had an all-pro year for the 49ers in 81. And the 49ers went to the Super Bowl and won the Super Bowl with 3 rookie corners. Now, Ronnie Lott's a Hall of Famer. Eric Wright had a long stretch there as a cover corner, but he's lost to history. He had some injuries in the back half of his career. But you can do it. I just don't know if they can do it, right? There you go. Manny Vasquez, Young's age will scare the Rams from giving him a big contract. He's going to be 29 when this current contract ends, and there's the rub there. 29 seems kind of old for a monster contract, but are you going to get his best years? They like him character-wise. He's great. And also, remember, he was working at the Dollar Tree, which means he might not have the mileage that some of these other players have. So unsure of what have happened there. I don't want him to lose Byron Young, but I think the Rams need a shakeup and a little fear of the Lord to put into that defense to wake them up. Anyone say Max Crosby? Jimmy Maldonado. Jimmy was our point guard in high school, just letting everyone know. Jimmy, I'm an SC fan, so I like Darnold. I do like Darnold. I'm not saying I don't like Darnold. I like Darnold. I just hate the Seahawks more. Okay. Jimmy Maldonado preaching the gospel of Ronnie Lott. Absolutely. All pro safety, all pro corner to start his career. Great player. And you know who his running mate was at USC at safety was Dennis Smith. Now, if you're going to do a veterans committee vote on getting somebody who deserves in the Hall of Fame, take a look at Dennis Smith in Denver. There you go. I said it. USA expat. First pickup, wide receiver, and a CB in free agent band, then draft additionals. I'm all for first pick, wide receiver. The money's there that if you want to go out and grab one of these free agent corners, we'll look at the cornerback room in a couple of weeks here, in a few days. That's one thing. But I wouldn't spend – I just hate the idea of spending high draft picks, right? I really think because the league is offensive – it's a very offensive league. I think if you're going to bring Stafford back, you want to make the offense just exceptional, just off the charts, right? You need an interior blocker. Maybe you trade out of 29 and move back and pick up another second rounder or third rounder, pick up more pieces. And then, probably third day, you got to be looking at another tight end. I want interior linemen. And you also, though, however, third day, you might be looking at tackle, because I think it's McClendon's job at right tackle, and I think it's obviously Alaric Jackson's job at left tackle. But who's the guys behind them, right? DJ Humphries, I don't think he's going to be the answer. Quisenberry, he's got mileage on him. I don't think he's going to be back. And AJ Akuri, I think we've played the game long enough with AJ. Love him, but I just can't smile. There you go. Let's see. Actual David Henry. Who are the Rams looking at adding in the draft? I hope everything's good in the household, David. We've been praying for you guys. I don't know for sure. We see, if you're looking at draft needs from some of these draft sites and they're listing tackle as the number one need for the Rams, it's a lazy draft site, or they haven't updated. Move on. Most people in Ramdom, most of Rams media, and I guess I fall under that. I don't know if I'm eligible to be declared that, but they're talking wide receiver. After that, it could be a crapshoot. I kind of want a defensive lineman, but we'll see. Let's see. ESG, I think Byron Young has to be the sacrificial lamb. Okay, so you don't think I'm talking out of my ears here, right? I think Josiah Stewart gives you enough. I think obviously Jared Verse gives you enough. I like Byron Young. I like everything about Byron Young. But 4 years at 145, if that's being projected, that's a little troublesome. When maybe I can make the deal and get a guy who looks like a wildling out of Game of Thrones, right? Somebody from north of the wall, right? I would really like to see something like that take place. I want somebody in that locker room. Everyone else is afraid of failing, right? Remember Kirk Gibson? Maybe you don't remember because I'm old. But in '88, Kirk Gibson was the guy that everybody in that Dodger dugout feared, right? And I think the Rams need some of that violent mojo in the locker room because they're all good guys. Manuel Vasquez, I get that the Rams want we not me players. Oh, they don't want me players, but they need attitude, not just verse mouth physical players that will make you pay for going into this area. And there's a great discussion to be had, right? The defenses in the NFL today, I'm just trying to think, we're playing that version of the Fangio too high shell. And, there's been modifications here and there, but, everything is packages, sub packages and stuff. You don't just come out and someone plays a 43 or someone comes out and plays a 34. You just don't see that anymore. But what I would like to see are packages or whatever it is that just makes this defense more aggressive, right? Turn it loose to be aggressive, maybe more blitzing. Maybe, I don't know. Go get those corners that can do real actual press coverage, not try to make Darius Williams play press coverage. And then just continue to say, you know what, we got the offense that allows us to play this aggressive defense, that we're going to give up big plays, but you know what? We're going to get them back. What was frustrating about this team is we're giving up over 30 points the whole back half of the season, the last month and a half of the season. We're supposed to be this great defense, and we're playing it cautiously, and we're still giving up over 30 points. Well, let's play aggressively, and if we have to give up 30, fine, but let's play aggressively and take the take the game to the other offenses. Again, Seahawks are considered to have a great defense. Did you see what the Rams did to the Seahawks defense the last 2 weeks? Last two times they played? I don't know. Frustrating. USA Expat. No, ESG. Darnold. I'm sorry, guys. I'm being rude to you. Forgive me. I wanted to give you guys some shots here. Darnold supposedly got the GM of the fired because of the Vikings fired. Yeah, they fired Mensa. Yeah. If Darnold doesn't go to the Super Bowl, I wonder if this guy keeps his job, right? I wonder if this guy keeps his job. USA Expat, interior lineman, quality center. I'm right there with you. Rams are most likely going to draft a tight end as Higbee's replacement. I don't think they draft him on the first 2 days. I think they'll draft him and develop him, and then we're going to find out what really is the future for Terrence Ferguson. You might need to go dip in the 4th round, optimal round for the Rams to draft a tight end in the 2027 draft. Jimmy Maldonado, I think the Rams need a receiver that can go deep. Preach, Jimmy. You got it. You want to talk about USC? All of us want Makai Lemon, right? That's the guy we want. ESG, we need a Max Crosby who's not afraid to get in your face when you're not doing your job. Yeah, there you go. You know what I really liked was that Imanowari. You guys were talking about Imanowari last spring, and the Rams just couldn't draft him. He was the safety that the Seahawks drafted that ended up being their slot, their star position guy. And you saw him as a rookie getting in the veteran Tariq Woolen's face for Tariq Woolen's brain dead actions. I love that, man. That would be a good guy to have on your roster. Jimmy Maldonado, why is your Ram Cave live cast longer than your Sunday sermons? Well, I invite you all to speak. And I have to be honest. When I'm preaching, I'm not taking questions, right? And then you can only handle somebody listening to somebody for no more than 15 to 20 minutes if you're not being involved in the message. But here, we could talk about the Rams. I get your opinion. We could talk about the draft. I get their opinion. We can talk about trades. We get your opinion. We can talk about how you hate the Cowboys and USC football. We can talk about that. So that's why, Jimbo, that's why we go a little bit longer here. ESG, yeah, I agree. They're going to draft a tight end, but not in the first round. No, I think they're going to find out what they have with Terrence Ferguson. I like Terrence Ferguson. I want to see what it is. I read the report on him. And they said coming in, his reputation was he was a good blocker. And you got to block if you're with the Rams. The receivers have to block, and the running backs have to play pass pro and pick up the blitz. Then your tight ends have to block. But he's just a unique skill set out there. I just like him as just a versatile weapon. So I wouldn't have any problem getting another tight end and keeping him as this guy I can put on the line. The Rams could run 13 personnel with Puka Nacua as one of those guys because he blocks so well. USA expat, don't waste the 13th pick on Lemon. Give me a guy. I want a receiver, man. Mr. Maldonado says we need someone to go deep. We've all said we need someone to go deep. Give me the guy because it's not going to be Xavier Smith. Give me the guy, USA. I'm ready to hear that from you. All right, let me get this back in place here. The quarterback room. All right, the quarterback room is the one that is really interesting. Right now, the Rams have Matthew Stafford, Jimmy Garoppolo, Stetson Bennett. No Dresser win to be found this year. Jeff Dresser win has gone on with his life. No Dresser win floating around on the practice squad. Now, right now, the sense is Stafford is coming back, which awesome sauce. That's great, right? We want Stafford coming back. But the real question, if Stafford is coming back, is does Jimmy Garoppolo, who has made us feel very comfortable the last 2 seasons, right? You felt pretty good about the Rams with Jimmy G as the backup, a quarterback who got a team to a Super Bowl. You felt very good about him being your backup. But does he want to do a third year as a backup, right? Now, Jimmy G's career earnings are over 154 rocks, right? He really hasn't played the last 2 years, right? The last real meaningful football he played in Fog City in 2022. We're not going to count that disaster in Las Vegas. He just turned 34. Does he want to come back as a backup, or does he want one more shot starting in the NFL? I'm all good. I want him back, but he might not want to come back. And then you got to ask, well, who's out there that may want him, right? Some interesting teams kind of came into mind here. The Chiefs are going to be without Patrick Mahomes for much. Well, he says he's going to be back, but by September. But the way they were describing it, probably not. Maybe it's midseason. Maybe he misses the first month and a half. What a great spot for Jimmy G to go to, right? How about the Vikings? J.J. McCarthy is the guy, but J.J. has yet to show he's healthy. Right now, they were running Carson Wentz out there and Max Brosmer. Wouldn't Jimmy G go there and knowing he'd probably get a chance to play? Here's another one that was on my mind here. Now, I got to figure the Falcons, they have to move off of Kirk Cousins, right? Is the guaranteed money gone yet? I didn't look it up. And then there's Michael Penix. Under Stefanski, do they give Penix one more chance and then you bring in Jimmy G? The Saints have Tyler Shugg. He played well, but you're going to have him with Spencer Rattler, right? I mean, so there'd be an opportunity for Jimmy G to play there. The Dolphins moved off of Tua. That could be a wide open race there, and Jimmy G could go there. They got Jalen Waddle. They got some bad dudes running the ball there, so Achin and everything. And then if Jimmy G has a death wish, he can go to the Jets. They don't have a quarterback. And I'm leaving the Raiders out of this because the Raiders are going to get Fernando Mendoza. But after Fernando Mendoza, bro, what is out there? Ty Simpson? Really? And then you got the Browns. And you got conversations about Shedeur Sanders and whether or not he should listen to, this is Emmanuel Acha, whether or not he should listen to Todd Monken. Who wants to go to Cleveland? Daniel Jones is a free agent because he got hurt before he got his contract extension. And Anthony Richards, they're done. Maybe the Colts might want to go with Jimmy G. So there might be some options for Jimmy G out there. And then that leads to the next issue. Let's see. Boom, 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 boom. Let me get you guys back in here real quick because I got another thing I want to say here. All right, let me see. Boom, boom, boom. Let's see. Maldonado is leaning lemon. I'm leaning lemon too, but I'm open to debate. Terry Wright up in San Luis Obispo says, what about McMillan from Arizona? Oh, and then Terry Wright, no, Jimmy, send Jimmy to Las Vegas. Where is a reliable, this is Bill from Philly, where is a reliable place to look for salary cap information? Every place I look has different numbers. I'm there with you, man. Every place I look has different numbers. I think Over the Cap has the Rams at 35. Spot Track has 45. I saw one with 58. I think everyone's factoring in assumptions like they're going to put Darius Williams in the street and they're going to save a bunch of bucks. So I am not quite sure exactly where to go. I'm getting the feeling as we get through the Super Bowl, some of these things are going to settle down. Terry Wright, no, not the Dolphins. You don't want Jimmy G? You don't want Jimmy G? I do not like Jimmy G. He's always hurt. Well, he hasn't been hurt for 2 years. Of course, he hasn't played for 2 years, but he hasn't been hurt for 2 years. So I'm just thinking, I don't want to lose Jimmy G, but Jimmy G might want to play. And that leads to another issue. Stafford stays. Jimmy G bolts because he wants one more shot at playing as a starter. Turning 29 next October is Stetson Bennett. Bennett still hasn't thrown a regular season pass. This coming year will be the last year of his contract. But it seems like the Rams like him, if not for anything, his personality. And he's been in the system. He looked good in the preseason for what it's worth. And outside of this, I'll say this. Outside of Fernando Mendoza, there's no one else in the draft you'd want right now starting a game, right? If I had a choice between Ty Simpson, if the Rams, if some are speculating, drafted Ty Simpson, who I'm not hot on. I don't know how you guys feel about it. I'm not hot about Ty Simpson, but if the Rams drafted Ty Simpson, I'd rather have Stetson Bennett starting that game because he hasn't thrown an NFL pass either. But Stetson Bennett knows the Rams system, and that's why I think he could get an opportunity to compete for the second spot. If somehow Stafford pulls the trigger on retirement, then bringing back Jimmy G is a must. And then you let Stetson again audition for number 2 in the draft. Let's see here. Let's see, Jimmy Maldonado. Terry Lemon was the Bolitnikoff Award winner this year. Yeah, and he can return punts. Terry Wright, exactly, not playing. You keep him with the Rams. Okay, I'll hold on to him. Lemon is cool too. Okay. ESG, if Miami bruised up Mendoza, can you imagine what the NFL is going to do to him as a Raiders quarterback? Yeah, but you know what? That's the business he's in, right? I think they're going to hire Kubiak from Seattle, and then they're just going to put – there's already some pieces there with Gentry and Bowers and stuff. Danny Scudero, Jimmy, he's not even on my radar. I'll check him out for you. Just because you said so, I will check him out. But Mendoza's going to get beat up no matter what. He's going to get beat up. And I think the Raiders have a better chance than the Jets, right? The Jets are Mordor, right? It's like going to Mordor when in the NFL. Also, where is Dart ending up? Dart's going to stay in New York. He's going to stay in New York. Jim Harbaugh is not going to get rid of a guy, or John Harbaugh is not going to get rid of a guy that could actually pass the ball down the field. So here's the other thing. I wanted to throw this out here so you guys can yell at me and disagree. Someone, and I'd like the Rams to inquire on, because I know, they always listen to me. Someone I'd like the Rams to inquire on, if he's healthy, is Will Levis. He missed the entire year with a shoulder injury. He was Tennessee's guy in the second round in 2024, and then they got their guy, Cam Ward, this year. And Cam Ward's going to be their guy. Brian Daboll didn't go to Tennessee as their offensive coordinator under Robert Saleh to coach Will Levis. He's going to coach Cam Ward. But if Levis's shoulder is okay, right? He's 6'4", 229, and raw. If the shoulder is sound, could you see an avenue where Sean McVay rehabilitates this guy and his career and maybe hones in some of those skills, right? Is there a possibility of that happening? Now, another guy I used to have my eyes on was Davis Mills at Houston, but, he won three games in a row. He played really well. Houston's not going to let him go anywhere with the way that C.J. Stroud's been playing. Another guy that I thought, I wonder if he came to the Rams because he's got a big arm, is Zach Wilson, another failed New York Jet quarterback who's bounced around to Denver, Miami. And if he was to come, and he would be dirt cheap, he'd be much cheaper than Will Levis, and make a move for him. I don't know. It'd be kind of interesting. Would the Rams be willing to – I liked Malik Willis. Would the Rams be willing to give a decent contract to Malik Willis to come in and say, hey, man, would you sit here and learn from Matthew Stafford? I don't know. That seems a little far out. But what I don't want is I really don't want the Rams to draft Ty Simpson. And everything else in this draft feels like third-day sauce, right? Carson Beck, Drew Aller, Clay Klubnik, these guys feel like third-day guys, right? Not third day the band, but fourth through seventh round guys. And I really don't even want it. The Rams don't even have a fourth round pick. I don't see them as anything better. So my guess is if Jimmy G goes right now, it looks like Stetson would be the guy. But I like the idea of Will Levis. I like the idea of maybe playing with Will Levis. Jimmy Maldonado led the nation with 1,200 receiving yards. I'll check him out, man. I will. ESG. Philadelphia hired an OC who was a quarterbacks coach who's never called to play in the NFL. Sean Mannion, right? Sean Mannion and the Nelson Spruce guy in 2016 brought the Rams back against the Cowboys in their return game. TC, yes, Will Levis has a great arm. Now, will you make sure, TC, that you heard it here first if it happens? Make sure I get props for that. Terry Wright, Zach, are you getting desperate, Pastor? Hey, he's cheap. He's got a big arm, no injury, bad stops. Maybe he just might be somebody that can be salvaged. If you bring him in, what are you going to bring him in for? I don't know if he's a free agent or not. It wouldn't cost you anything more than a seventh round pick. You bring him in and you just find out. You take a flyer on him, right? Yeah, I like that idea. I like Will Levis better. I bet you can get Will Levis for definitely third round or less, and probably less. He hasn't played. Their guy is Cam Ward. If you offer them a third rounder and Levis, you feel like Levis is somebody you can work with. Levis is somebody that will, play ball with the coaching staff. That's exciting. And remember, Will Levis was one of those guys that was left in the draft room in his draft, had to come back the second day. Nothing's more embarrassing than sitting in that first round draft room. And the next thing you know, you're not even drafted. Greg Scott, thank you. Guys, you love Levis. To me, it just seems like an opportunity, right? It seems like an opportunity that could be there. All right. Let's take a look at this real quick. Well, no, let's do the commercials. Remember, Kistler Law, get the compensation you deserve. If you have an auto issue, get Kistler Law. Also, sports ball. We're pushing some of our Super Bowl squares now, and we'll be doing more and more of that going forward. And what I say about sports ball, if you're looking for a way to get a crew together on game day without the gambling stress or fantasy overload, you just want to talk trash, try sports ball games. Free pick 'em and squares. We're doing a Super Bowl one. Live leaderboards and bragging rights built in. One click and you're in. No fees, no spreadsheets, no headaches. Just sports fun your whole group can enjoy. Whether you're cheering from the break room or the backyard, sports ball games makes every game day a team event. Play for fun, brag for real. And of course, Game Day in the Ram Cave, written by yours truly. Every time you buy a copy of this, it keeps me going. My church is very small, so I do have side hustles. One is RamView, and the other one is writing books. This is the Rams playing the Packers. It's fictional. Check it out. If you need something to soothe you through this offseason, Game Day in the Ram Cave is it. And then, of course, every time you see me on the air, when you see me wearing this button right here, it's for Outsiders. I am one of the directors of Outsiders Camps, and we are getting ready for our summer. Thanks very much so to Kistler Law and their financial support. And finally, I just want to remind you all that have gotten here late, this is Mike Jones Day.
Mike Jones made the tackle, and the Rams have won the Super Bowl.
Tell me, does that not give you chills, right? Mike Jones makes the tackle. Mike Jones makes the tackle. All right, TC, heard it here first on Will Levis. Thank you very much. Manuel Vasquez, isn't Will Levis the quarterback that said it's not his job to train the backup? Wasn't that him? If it was, we may not. We don't want a me player. I agree, but Baker Mayfield was somebody we didn't want, right? Baker, maybe Tannehill did say that, TC. I don't know. Will Levis was kind of broad and bold. He did some commercials. He did some stuff. But Baker Mayfield, would you have ever envisioned Baker Mayfield coming to the Rams, right? We never would have done that, ever envisioned it. And I wasn't crazy when they signed him, but I was crazy after he played that Thursday night. And I was hoping they would bring him back as a backup because we didn't know Stafford was going to be healthy for the next 3 years. So a player can mature, a player can get better, and humble himself a little bit. There we go. Terry Wright, go Outsiders. Thank you from the bottom of our hearts. Mr. Kistler, not Mr. Hustler, Mr. Kistler. And then, of course, Ryan Tannehill mentioned there by TC fan. So, okay, let me drop this in here just so we go to around the NFL and other places. I want to look at the Rams' schedule again. This isn't necessarily the schedule. These are their opponents. But when you see on this board, when you're looking, the Cardinals are going to have a new head coach. They haven't named him yet. You're hearing Mike LaFleur from the Rams might become their head coach. Cowboys, Giants have a new head coach. And the Bills have a new head coach. They hired Joe Brady. You're looking at the away games in red. Eagles are going to have a new OC. Raiders are going to have a new head coach. So 5 of the 14 teams the Rams are playing are going to have new head coaches. So that's an advantage. If you look at it here, Cardinals didn't make the playoffs. Cowboys, Giants, Chiefs, that's 4. If you look at the away games, Cardinals 5. Well, that's the same team. Taxkins, Buccaneers, Raiders, they didn't make the playoffs either. This is a little more flexible schedule. I think the NFC is going to be brutal. I think the idea of the Rams staying healthy all season is going to be really a long shot. But yeah, there we go. Yes, Kistler, there we go. ESG, it might be too early to say, but that doesn't look like a tough schedule. Yeah, there you go. We're reading each other's thoughts. It's not an end-of-the-world schedule. It's not. So it can allow the Rams to focus on their business and get ready. And again, no one got hurt this year. It's just the way the wheel works, right? Unless you're a Frisco fan or a Detroit fan where everybody gets hurt all the time. The Rams have been spared a lot of struggle. But yeah, just one more look there. We don't know when these games will be played. Always looking at cold weather possibilities. We're again going to Philly for another year. You're going to DC. And depending on when you go to Denver, right? Those are really the only ones there. The part that troubles me the most is that they're taking away a home game and playing it in Australia. and I'm really going to be ticked off if that is the Seahawk game. All right, looking at the draft picks right now, these are the Rams draft picks they have right now. Now, some of these numbers will change when the compensatory picks get finalized, right? So things will get moved around and bumped around a little bit. But right now, you got the Rams with number 13, 29, 61, and 93 in the first round. I doubt if those will move. So you got 4 picks in the top 100. If you make a deal at number 29 and maybe move back, you could probably pick up an extra pick and have 5 picks in the top 100. It's the one thing I think you should always shoot for. How many picks can you get, not necessarily in the first round, but in the top 5, in the top 100? The only outlier here is if you needed to make that play that move for the player you're not going to get a chance to get later on. Rams do have 2 first-round picks. They have a full complement of picks in 27 as well. But if you really wanted to make a splash and move up, the only issue here is Fernando Mendoza is the only quarterback, and that's the only position you would trade 3 number 1s for, right? It's the only one. So these are the Rams draft picks. They got 10 draft picks. Shellhouse did not get the Cleveland job, so there is no 3rd round pick coming in compensation. $5 Steve sent me his mock draft from PFF. You can see he did a trade there. So this is what I'm going to share with you guys. If you have a mock draft, send it to me. I will again put my email in here. We've been talking about this for years, and it was hard to get them up there. I'd read them, but you guys would send them to me. But now we can post them. And $5 Steve let me know that Carnell Tate was there, the Ohio State. I'd take Carnell Tate, and because Lemon was already gone. Up to this point, and I realize it's very early, Lemon was right there in that 11 to 15 slot at every mock draft I saw. But, these things have a tendency to change, right? Now, Steve spends a number 1 pick on a corner, Mansour Delane, LSU. If he goes to LSU, he's facing big-time receivers. That's not a bad deal. Lee Hunter, defensive tackle. Never underestimate those guys. Those guys are so valuable. Max Einker in the trade back from Arizona State, a tackle. You got Pat Coogan. He got a lot of press there at Indiana's run. He projected 4th and 5th round, so that's right where you should take him. A later corner at 167 from Washington, Takario Davis. I had seen him. He picked up a tight end from Utah, Dallin Bentley. That's a Kyle Whittingham player, so you're always good with that. And then a guard to work with. And, of course, obligatory, the Rams take a safety, which they almost always do. So I'll leave that up there for a minute as we talk about it. Let's see here. $5 Steve. I wanted Lemon, but he was going in the 9 to 11 range in the last week. Yeah, I think what's going to happen and what we're going to see happen is some of these guys catch fire, right? Some of these guys catch fire. They're going to catch fire after the Senior Bowl. They're going to catch fire before the Combine and after the Combine. And so so stock's going to change, right? A week ago, you can get Lemon at 13. I don't know if you're going to get him now. Carnell Tate, he's an Ohio State receiver. A lot of people like him. I saw him play. I like him. Is he a burner, though? I don't know if he's as much of a burner that we're looking for. I'll let Steve correct me on that. I think of him as a big receiver, but I'll take correction because I haven't done my deep dive. But with that said, guys, be sure to send me you got my email there. Send me your mock draft, and I'd love to talk about it. I don't want to just do my mock draft. And the more mock drafts we post, the more names get seen and recognized. I think the year the Rams drafted Puka Nacua, I had a board in my office here, and I had about 100 plus names on there in every round, right? And when Nacua got drafted, that was 23. I didn't even know who he was. I mean, I think I had seen him play at BYU, but I when they drafted him, my mind was blank. So this is something I think it's a lot of fun for all of us to stay interactive with each other because we help each other, right? TC, do you think we make a big splash this offseason and trade one or both of our first-round picks for an elite CB or wide receiver since our Super Bowl window is closing with Stafford? Preach on that. Super Bowl window ends when Stafford retires. Super Bowl window ends when Stafford retires, and so yeah, I don't know. I'm hesitant to make a deal for a big time receiver because big time receiver, you got big time diva, you got big time money going out when you can get a receiver on a rookie contract, and the draft seems to always have a receiver in it. So that one I understand. A bigger splash could be traded for a corner. You know, after the 83 season, the Rams traded in 84. They moved out of the first round and they made that deal with the Chiefs, and Gary Green, who had been a Pro Bowl safety with corner. Gary Barbaro was the safety. Gary Green was the corner for the Chiefs from like 77 through 82, 83. Pro Bowl guy, gave the Rams 2 good years, 84 and 85. Had a bulging hernia in his neck and he had to retire. But the Rams made that deal for the veteran corner in the 84 draft season. And so it is possible. It's just sometimes it's a turkey shoot. Do you think the Colts have a smidgen of regret for putting all that capital into Sauce Gardner? And I didn't even like Sauce Gardner, and they put some capital into him. That's really something to think about. Terry Wright. Now, Terry Wright, let me tell you about Terry. Terry is up in San Luis Obispo, and at her church, they have a kid named Christian Jones, and he played at San Diego State. He's about 6'9", 2,000 pounds, whatever it is, and he's going to the combine, not Columbine, to the combine. And so yeah, he is someone to keep an eye on. 6'9", offensive lineman, man. Well, we know that the Eagles aren't going to draft him because the Eagles, the Dolphins, the Cardinals, they're not going to draft him because their quarterback can't see across from him. Michael Negretti, trade Young and a first for Max Crosby. Silla. Okay, there you go. You know, if I'm going to give them Young, and a first for Max, they're going to eat the bulk of Max's contract. Okay? Now, if they want Young and a third-round pick, then I'll take Max's contract. Raiders can't have it both ways, right? They can't have it both ways on this. So yeah, that's what I would do in that situation. But I do like it. I like any idea of that taking place. All right, real quick, only 2 head coaching jobs open are Arizona and Vegas. Vegas feels like Clint Kubiak. He's going to get Fernando Mendoza. Why wouldn't you? Arizona seems crazy. They interviewed Ron Rivera. Are they serious? Michael LaFleur and a couple of DCs, the one from the Jaguars, Campanelli, and the one from Miami, Weaver. And then, of course, Emmanuel Acho made that statement that Shedeur Sanders doesn't necessarily have to listen to Todd Monken because Todd Monken hasn't done anything as an NFL head coach. Emmanuel Acho, man, that guy, right? Too much Joy Taylor in his system. Way too much Joy Taylor in his system. And it's messing with his brain. You got to get a penicillin shot, Emmanuel, because it's not working. Shedeur should just say, yes, sir, no, sir. Thank you for letting me be part of the team and a chance to compete. Bill Belichick not getting in on the first ballot. I kind of don't care. It doesn't make any difference. If Spygate that first time around with the Rams affected him and something seems fishy there. But it's over, right? Put the dude in. Just put the dude in. He should have gone in. And I understand it's payback. It's payback for when someone treats you like a dog, right? All that on to Cincinnati business. It's not a moral crime. It's not someone was raped, murdered, and abandoned. Bill Belichick ticked off a lot of people. He's going to get in the Hall of Fame. And they just said, you know what? I'm not voting for you right now. I don't have to. He's going to get in, right? You know, if you want moral outrage with football, wonder why Bill Cowher got in so quick, right? You know, long before Tom Flores, right? And Fred and Seifert has not even got in for the 49ers. Anyway, I digress. TC, good point. would be difficult to pay Puka and another elite wide receiver. Yeah. And technically not knowing what's going to happen with Adams. Adams is around 28 rocks next year. I have no problem paying that to him. I think it would be cool if they could, extend it, void some stuff, do some creative stuff. So some of that salary gets pushed off to next year or to 2027. I do not like the discussions about not bringing Adams back. I think they're brain dead. I think this guy, if he doesn't want to retire, it's going to be because he's highly motivated. He's still productive. And who was he torching? I say this again. Puka was chewing up and spitting out Tariq Woolen, the other corner for Seattle. Devontae Adams was out muscling and beating Devon Witherspoon, their top corner, one of the top corners in the game. Bring that homeboy back. There you go. Let's see. $5 Steve. Why is Tony Dungy in? Because people can't help but like Tony Dungy. Right? Also, I don't mean this to stir the pot or anything. I like Tony Dungy. Was he the first opportunity? Correct me if I'm wrong. He was the first opportunity to vote in an African-American head coach. I have no problem with him being in, but we know how the sports writers think, the KBM thinks, right? They made a big deal about Tom Flores being the first Hispanic head coach to get in the NFL, yet they bypassed him for 30-plus years, right? It's just, if I can make a statement with my vote, and it's time vote, that's what the KBM does. I have no problem with Tony Dungy being in. He should get in just for being an ambassador of the game, for being a class act. But I think, he was the first African-American coach to kind of really make a statement in terms of what he was doing as a coach. I think he was. Art Shell, Dennis, not Dennis Allen. Dennis, my mind's going blank. The Vikings coach, crown him. They had not. He won a Super Bowl, and that's why he had helped his cause besides everything else. And there was talk about how long he had to wait and everything. I'll go further on this. If Warren Moon hadn't been the first, Warren Moon to me is not a Hall of Famer. You look at his playoff record, he's not a Hall of Famer, but he was the first one, right? He was the first one who just had Dennis Green. There we go. If you want to crown him, crown him. But Warren Moon was the first one to have numbers, right, that you had to look at. But I still don't think Warren Moon was a Hall of Fame quarterback. Not before Jim Plunkett. He's got 2 Super Bowls, right? And, I'm not really big on acknowledging Canada above the NFL. So anyway, let's move on from there. Vikings did fire Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah. And if Sam Darnold doesn't go to the Super Bowl, then he probably holds on to his job. Eagles hire Sean Mannion, former Ram quarterback, as offensive coordinator. Mannion, who feels like he was years ago with the Ram, he's only 33, and this is his first OC job. Good luck there. So keeping all those things present. And real quick here, let me get this in. Seahawks at Patriots. I am still leaning Seahawks in this game. I don't see an avenue yet for the Patriots. And when I do see an avenue for the Patriots, it's going to be more heart than mind, because I want the Seahawks to lose. I am already in next year mode. I want them devastated by the Patriots. I want a 42-3 devastation. Sam Darnold, 7 picks, 2 fumbles, and I want them just devastated so they're even more hungover than the Rams are, right? Is that going to happen? Probably not, but it's what I want, right? It's what we can all hope and wish for. There we go. Let's see here. I think the best case scenario, TC, scenario in the first round is Mekhi Lemon at 13 and Avian Terrell at 29. I see a trend with a lot of you guys. You do like the idea of taking a corner in the first round. I'm not there yet. Maybe I will be by the time the offseason is winding down with the draft. I'm just not there yet. I'd rather see a guy take it in the second or third round. But to me, again, drafting a corner feels so risky. All right, let's get this in. It is time for.
It was a stone groove, my man.
All right, Stone Groove. On this day in Rams history in 1968, the Rams drafted Gary Beeman, 30th overall out of UCLA, and a young $5 Steve stood up and cheered. In 1973, on this day, the Rams took Cullen Bryant. Now think about this draft. The Rams took Cullen Bryant, Ron Jaworski, Jim Youngblood, Eddie McMillan, Terry Nelson, and Cody Jones in one draft. Cody Jones, right? Terry Nelson, they were there in the Super Bowl team in 79. Eddie McMillan was a starter for off and on for 3 years. Ron Jaworski led a team to the Super Bowl, right? Cullen Bryant was great. Jim Youngblood was great. What a draft in 73. And if the Rams had picked off a Super Bowl in the 70s, that might be people talking about one of the greatest drafts ever. On this day in 2009, the Rams hired Kevin Deloff. Born on this day in 1955, Nolan Cromwell turns 71 today. Hard to believe. And then Lance Kendricks turns 38. Remember Lance Kendricks, tight end? Had high hopes for him. High hopes for him. Rams drafted him when they were in St. Louis. And then, you know, he came to LA in 2016 and he just didn't become what we needed him to become. On this day in 2022, NFC title game, Rams beat the 49ers 20-17. Speaking of Jimmy D, Aaron Donald wraps his arms around him and Trayvon Howard gets the pick. Really interesting because 2 weeks later, Aaron Donald gets his hands around Joe Burrow. Paul goes incomplete and the Rams win the Super Bowl. Where have you gone, Aaron Donald? Our team turns its lonely eyes to you. And then on this date in 2000 for the 1999 season, Super Bowl 34. Gotta say it because it's real.
Mike Jones made the tackle, and the Rams have won the Super Bowl.
Where were you when Mike Jones made the tackle, right? That's the one, man. Where were you when Mike Jones made the tackle? And that was on this day 26 years ago. Tomorrow, since we're not on the air, the 1968 draft, January 31st, Harold Jackson was drafted by the Rams, as was Michigan State quarterback Jimmy Ray. Jimmy Ray was African-American. Rams drafted him in the 16th round. Now, maybe they wanted to convert him to something else, but this was George Allen's Team. Later, Johnny Walton would be added to this group, another African-American quarterback who ended up backing up Jaworski in Philly and then later making some noise with the Breakers in the USFL. And I just bring those names up because there was a narrative sold that George Allen was a racist, and yet it was Deacon Jones who gave his induction speech posthumously for George Allen. And so just a narrative that needs to be blown away. If you could play football, you could play for George Allen, as could Clancy Williams. At the end of his career on January 31st, 1973, the Rams traded the rights to Clancy Williams for a Redskins 15th overall pick. And born tomorrow, turning 27 tomorrow, is Ronnie Rivers. So there, we got it all in. And yeah, I think it was good. We got it in.
It was a stone groove, my man.
Rams should have kept Jaws and said bye-bye to Pat Hayden. Yeah, right? What are you going to do, right? Isn't it funny? Vermeil knew. Vermeil had been a Rams assistant as late as 73, and that was the year that Jaworski came to the Rams. Then he went to UCLA. Then he went to Philly, and that was the move he made. Bye-bye, Mike Barella. Hello, Ron Jaworski. Yeah, I still get disturbed by my youth and optimism, which when you're a kid, you believe it, is that the Rams were dead men walking from the get-go. The Rams were just dead men walking from the get-go with Pat Hayden. You just weren't going to get there. I hated Fran Tarkenton, but Pat Hayden wasn't Fran Tarkenton. Couldn't stand the Cowboys and Roger Staubach, but you couldn't get past him with Pat Hayden. You couldn't get past Bob Lee and the Vikings in 77. Yeah. Right? Rams let Van Brocklin go. He wins a title with Philly. Rams let Frank Ryan go. He wins a title with the Browns, right? Rams let Billy Wadd go. He wins a title with the Bears. Rams let Ron Jaworski go, and he ends up going to a Super Bowl with the Eagles, right? Let alone we let Nick Foles go, and Nick Foles won a Super Bowl. It's just what it is, right? I'm probably missing one in there. Manny Vasquez, I was 31 years old when the Rams won that Super Bowl. After the Jones tackle, I never jumped so high in my life than I did after that night. That's funny. I hugged somebody. I'm not a hugger, right? And I hugged somebody. So that's another great topic for this offseason. Where were you when the Rams were in St. Louis? Did you give up on them? Or did you just have this hope? We always had hope at Mid-Valley Sports. The Rams were coming back. In fact, that was one of the motivating factors to start Mid-Valley Sports. $5 Steve, funny how George Allen drafted Harold Jackson but traded him twice. Absolutely. He didn't like Harold Jackson. He didn't like Marlon McKeever. He got to L.A., 66. Marlon McKeever got the boot. He got back he got to Washington where McKeever was, and then McKeever was gone back to the Rams in that. I think it was the Ramskins trade. Jimmy Maldonado, the EMHS cheerleading squad won the national competition in Houston. Oh, the alma mater. Wow. I did not know that. Congratulations. Our alma mater won the cheerleading squad competition. That's really cool. If I was at the paper still, I'd be writing about that. Thank you, Jimmy. Michael Negretti, trade Young and a 5th rounder and throw in LeBron James for Max Crosby. Yeah, I'm into that. Mr. Powers out in Irvine, I drank the Kool-Aid on Hayden. I think a lot of people did. I don't know if I was sold on Hayden, but my feeling was that we had a chance, right? We had a chance. And you look at it now because you get older, you understand football better. You understand you never had a chance, right? You never had a chance. With James Harris, you might have. I'm not saying an absolute, but you had a better chance with James Harris than you did with Pat Hayden. And talking to a few people that twice removed from the Rams, I don't have inside contacts. Maybe if Joe Namath got to play in the Mud Bowl, that might have been a different thing there too, since the field conditions would have been more suited to his arm strength as opposed to Hayden's and his hand size, right? Yeah, it just never worked. And you notice Hayden goes out struggling in 79. Ferragamo finds his bearings, and we don't beat Dallas. We don't beat Dallas with Hayden in Dallas, right? Ferragamo gave us a chance. And then Ferragamo essentially gave the Rams a chance in Super Bowl 14. Yeah, the Hayden thing was brutal. I planned today to start and go 30 minutes, right? You guys are killing me. Great questions, guys. Thanks for hanging with me. Pastor Joe, what do you think of Carson Beck? 5th round. We don't have a 4th round pick. I don't want to move up for him. I did see a mock draft with Drew Aller. Yeah, Drew Aller, what is he, 6'5" or something? You can bring him in, sit him down, let him play. But, Beck really didn't impress me. Aller seemed like he fell off a cliff this year. Maybe that was all the drama around Penn State. But I would go Aller before Carson Beck. I was kind of leaning Cade Klubnik at the start of the season, but I moved off that one really quick. I don't know. I'm just not in on Carson Beck. I'm just not, right? And but, I wasn't in on Stetson Bennett. I don't know if I still am, if I ever was in on Stetson Bennett. But I tell you, last preseason, I got sold a little bit. But I think the Rams have invested 3 years in Stetson Bennett for a reason. And if Jimmy G moves on, or the Rams decide it's Stetson Bennett's time to be the backup, we save $3 million from paying Jimmy G. Jimmy G's made $3 million each of the last 2 years. He might say, hey, I'll stay if you give me $5 million. And the Rams just might not want to give that money. You keep Stetson Bennett around when you had every opportunity to get rid of him, but they kept Stetson Bennett around. He knows the system. He did win 2 titles at Georgia. He didn't win 2 titles at Bo Diddley Tech. He won them in Georgia. And so I think there is something about him the Rams like, and there's something they could see in him, except he just hasn't thrown a pass in the NFL. So I want Jimmy G back. I want the quarterback room to stay the same. But if Stafford doesn't retire, which it doesn't look like he is, then I can see Jimmy G walking. And the Rams just saying, thank you, Jimmy G, but we don't want to pay you $5 million to not throw a pass this year. I don't know, but there's not much out there. I do want to hear all your comments. I want you to defend me in Rams media and all the other places you go. When Payo Time comes in here, if you guys go to Payo Time show, make sure you let the dude know that, Joe suggested Will Levis. Right? $5 Steve. I think the Rams draft a quarterback at some point this year if Jimmy G leaves. If Jimmy G leaves, absolutely. I fully agree. But that quarterback they draft will not be number 2. I think the Rams are going to give Stetson Bennett every opportunity to say he's our number 2. Because, again, I think they've invested in him and they just want to see, right? Because you could bring in Drew Aller. You can bring in one of these guys, and they're not going to be ready to start anything close to it. The wild card I like is Will Levis, just to see. Lower end, Zach Wilson, right? Stetson and Levis battling for backup quarterback next year in camp. I'm down. Because if the Rams made a move for Will Levis, I think they would be thinking, hey, if we could rehabilitate this guy, we just might have our next quarterback, right? He's got the tools. I mean, is the shoulder okay? We don't know. That's a hard one to judge. Remember, Drew Brees was damaged goods when he was a free agent. Dolphins didn't sign him. New Orleans did, right? You don't know. You just don't know. I mean, yeah, we've seen it before, right? We've seen it before. Bad shoulder doesn't get better. Bad shoulder gets better. We don't know. I remember the Jets. Had the quarterback. I forget his name. He went to Miami also. Name's blanking on me. I didn't put him in my list today. I didn't see him. But Stetson, I think the Rams like him. And I could see the Rams making a deal. Drafting a quarterback in the 5th round. There we go. All right. I think we got it in. Send me your mock drafts, and we will go from there. Remember, it's Mike Jones Day. Everyone say thank you to Mike Jones.
Jones made the tackle, and the Rams have won the Super Bowl.
Who better than Al Michaels? Just one more time for Al Michaels.
Mike Jones made the tackle, and the Rams have won the Super Bowl.
See, what a great night, right? What a great night it is. Al Michaels, that guy deserves a statue at the stadium. There you go. Let's see. Okay, I'll throw these last ones up there. $5 Steve, Testaverde. There you go. Testaverde had a very productive career, right? When it looked like he was done. Manuel Vasquez, Bennett is going to be like Goff. He's going to need everything just right, but can't carry the team the way Stafford can. That's why we get him more weapons, right? That's why we get another legit receiver in the 1st round. We see Terrence Ferguson develop. We draft some depth along the interior of that offensive line. Boom. There we go. $5 Steve. What about Bruce? Okay, I'm drawing a blank there. You're going to have to correct me when I get back, Steve, because I got to run right now. But, yeah, let's get out of here. I am going to leave you guys with some proud heritage. Let's do it right. Who needs to see me?